forgot my passport before our first trip abroad, then my boyfriend publicly humiliated me, and now I can't tell if this is abuse or my fault. Hey Reddit, I'm feeling super overwhelmed and honestly just need some perspective. So, my boyfriend, 28M, and I, 28F, have been dating for just under 2 years. Things have been mostly great. We laugh a lot. We have similar goals. And this trip was supposed to be our first big milestone. Our first international vacation together. We've been planning this trip for months. I mean, we even got custom luggage tags, matching neck pillows, the whole Pinterest travel couple aesthetic. We were flying from Seattle to Tokyo with a layover in Vancouver. We live about an hour outside of Seattle proper, so it's a bit of a haul to get to the airport. Now here's where I take full accountability. I majorly screwed up. Like, completely. The morning of the trip, I made a last-minute decision to switch bags. I usually carry a small crossbody when I travel, but I impulsively switched to a fanny pack because I thought it would be easier. In doing so, I left my passport in the original bag, at home. I only realized it at the check-in counter. Literal nightmare. I was instantly panicked and mortified. The blood drained from my face. I turned to my boyfriend and admitted I had forgotten it, and he lost it. And I mean, lost it. He immediately started raising his voice, calling me stupid and irresponsible, saying I always forget things and that he should have double-checked everything. He was doing this in front of the check-in agent and everyone else in line. I wanted to disappear. I was completely frozen. I wasn't even trying to defend myself. I just kept saying, I know, I'm sorry, over and over. I was sorry. I was embarrassed and already beating myself up without his help. I knew this was a massive mess-up. But instead of de-escalating, he kept escalating. The airline agent was honestly the MVP of the morning. She stayed calm, tried to comfort me, and immediately checked if there were any alternate flights I could take. She said I could get on the same flight tomorrow for a $300 change fee. I thought that was super reasonable given the situation. I told my boyfriend, hey, you go ahead, I'll catch up tomorrow. It's not ideal, but at least we won't lose everything. And he just snapped again like, what about me? I'm not going to Tokyo alone. So I offered to pay for his change fee too, no problem. He then said, wow, so now we're throwing away $600 because you're too dumb to pack your passport? Money isn't really an issue for us. We're both pretty financially stable. At that point, I was holding it together mostly for the sake of the crowd around us. I didn't want to cause a bigger scene. He was huffing, sighing, grunting. It was humiliating. I just kept apologizing, and the airline rep even started looking for same-day flights out of Portland and San Francisco just in case. Then the agent had a brilliant idea. Can someone bring your passport here? If they can make it in time, I'll walk you through TSA myself. My heart soared. I called my best friend, bless her soul, and she dropped everything to drive to our place, grab my passport, and race it to the airport. So now we're waiting about an hour. And during that time, my boyfriend did not let up. He refused to go ahead through security even though I begged him to just go inside and wait for me there. Instead, he stood with me and continued tearing into me, saying things like, you better pray your friend gets here in time. How do you even forget a passport? If we miss this flight, I honestly don't even care to catch the next one. I can't believe I'm dating someone this stupid. Mind you, I was already a nervous wreck. My stomach was in knots, my palms were sweating, and I was holding back tears. I felt like a child being punished in public. And all I could think was, this is the person I'm supposed to travel the world with? Anyway, my friend did make it barely. I got my passport. We made the flight by minutes thanks to the kind airline rep rushing us through. We're now in Tokyo. He's acting completely normal, like nothing happened. Laughing, eating sushi, posting selfies. But I can't stop thinking about how he treated me. Was it just the heat of the moment? Or is this a sign of something deeper and more toxic? I know I made a terrible mistake, but does that justify being humiliated and called names for over an hour in public? Would love to hear if anyone's been in a similar situation or has some advice on how to talk about this with him without reigniting the whole thing. So, we made the flight. Barely. My best friend came through like an actual guardian angel. I was standing at the airport, checking the time every 10 seconds, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. I don't think I've ever prayed that hard in my life. I could feel the minutes slipping away, imagining the gate closing, imagining ruining everything. But somehow, some miracle, she made it with about 15 minutes to spare, and thanks to the absolute hero of a flight attendant, again, we got rushed through TSA and reached the gate with 7 minutes left before boarding closed. The second I sat down on that plane, the adrenaline wore off and everything hit me. I just started crying. Quietly. Just a few tears. But my whole body was shaking, from stress, from the relief, from the emotional whiplash. And suddenly, my boyfriend switched. He pulled me in close, wrapped his arm around me, stroked my hair, kissed my temple, and kept saying, we're okay, babe. Don't worry. We made it. And I didn't know what to do with that. A few minutes earlier, I was too stupid to date, and now he's cuddling me and calling me his warrior. When I calmed down, I very gently told him that I didn't appreciate how he spoke to me earlier. I said, look, I know I messed up bad, but the way you spoke to me, it really hurt. You didn't have to humiliate me. And his response? Well, I'm not going to coddle dumb behavior. That sentence hit me in the gut. Like, yes, I forgot something important, but I'm not a child. I don't need to be coddled, but I also don't think I deserve to be publicly berated, mocked, and called names while panicking. Still, I wanted peace. I wanted to believe it was a heat-of-the-moment thing. So I let it go, or tried to. He said he'd make it up to me, and by dinner when we landed. I said okay. Now we're here, in Tokyo, and he's back to being his usual sweet self, laughing, taking pictures, holding my hand, excited to explore. And yet, I feel off, like I can't enjoy any of it fully. I keep thinking about the airport, about how fast he flipped the switch, about how easy it was for him to call me stupid for over an hour, how cruel some of his words were, and how normal he's acting now, like none of that happened. And here's my problem, Reddit. I don't know if I should bring it up again while we're here, or wait until we get back home. Part of me feels like I should just enjoy the trip and not ruin the vibe. But another part of me feels like I'm suppressing something that needs to be addressed. I also keep gaslighting myself, like, maybe I deserved it? I did mess up. He was frustrated. It was a big moment. Maybe I should just suck it up and move on. Maybe I am being too sensitive. But then I think, if the roles were reversed, and he forgot his passport, I wouldn't have treated him like that. I would have been stressed, sure, but I would have helped him problem solve, not dragged him in front of strangers. So yeah, I'm still smiling in pictures and laughing at ramen shops, but this is eating away at me a little. I don't know how to bring it up again without sounding like I'm starting drama. Or worse, what if he just brushes it off again? Any advice on how to navigate this conversation? Should I wait until we're back home? Or do I owe it to myself to talk about it now? Would really appreciate any insight. Update 1. First, thank you. Seriously. To everyone who took time to read, comment, or send a kind word. It meant a lot more than I expected. I didn't think my little spiral in an airport would resonate, but the validation made me feel a bit less crazy. Now to the update. Since that post, I've been doing my best to enjoy this trip. And honestly, I have been having fun. Tokyo is magical. The food is unreal. The streets are cleaner than any city I've ever seen. And there's something about being in a completely new place that just forces you to be present. I even managed to loosen up and laugh a bit. I also spent a lot of time reflecting on our relationship. We've been together almost 2 years, and this was really the first time I've seen that side of him. The impatient, sharp-tongued, zero-empathy version. I told myself that maybe it was just a fluke, that I'd bring it up properly when we were back home, in private, without stress or jet lag or airport chaos coloring everything. But then, the universe gave me a plot twist I couldn't make up. We were out shopping. He found a tech gadget he liked at an electronics store that offered duty-free pricing. But to do that, you have to show your passport at checkout. And guess who didn't bring his? Yep, my boyfriend. The same man who spent 30-plus minutes berating me in public for my passport mistake just forgot his. And I'll be honest, I couldn't help myself. I looked at him, tilted my head, and said in my best mock-serious voice, "Oh wow, how could you forget your passport? That's such a dumb behavior. And you know I don't coddle dumb behaviors." I expected a chuckle, a smirk, maybe an eye roll. Instead, he completely shut down. Stone. Cold. Silence. The vibe switched immediately, like someone had turned off a light. He didn't say a word to me for the rest of the outing. He ignored me on the train, at the next store, at the ramen place we were supposed to try. Full on Stonewall. I tried to apologize, not even for the joke itself, but for the timing. I told him I didn't mean to embarrass him, that it just felt like poetic irony and I couldn't help it. He didn't even look at me. Eventually, I broke down crying. Not loudly, just that awful silent kind where tears fall and you're wiping them fast before strangers notice. And still, nothing from him. And something inside me just snapped. I was so exhausted from trying to make peace. So tired of him being allowed to make mistakes and me being crucified for mine. So tired of the one-sided grace. So I took that same $600 we almost used on rebooking flights and used it instead to book a last-minute hostel across town. It's not great, a little grimy, loud at night, and kind of isolating, but at least it's mine for now. I left him in the Airbnb and haven't texted since. He hasn't reached out either. It's been almost a full day. We have a booked Team Lab borderless experience tomorrow, non-refundable, and a couple restaurant reservations later this week, but I honestly don't even know if I want to go anymore. I'm stuck somewhere between. Am I overreacting? Did I go too far with the joke? Why is he allowed to be mean but I can't even be sarcastic once? Why is he not texting me first? And why do I miss him even though I'm angry? I know this probably seems petty from the outside. Couple argues on vacation is hardly front-page drama. But I'm alone in a foreign country, sleeping in a weird little hostel bed, holding back tears over someone who was supposed to be my partner. And I just feel so heavy. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I might post again depending on what happens tomorrow. For now, I just needed to get this off my chest. Update 2. We broke up. I'm okay. I'm healing. And I'm grateful for the pain, the clarity, and the strength I found through it. TLDR, we ended things. I'm heartbroken but also empowered. I'm going to be okay. Thank you all. Hi again, Reddit. I wasn't planning to update a second time, but I guess life has a funny way of writing its own messy chapters, and it felt wrong not to share how it all ended. Yes, I was being petty. Let's call a spade a spade. When my boyfriend forgot his passport during our duty-free shopping stop, after the way he'd humiliated me, I couldn't resist. I made a snide comment, mocking what he had said to me. Oh wow, how could you forget your passport? I don't coddle dumb behavior. And yeah, he fumed. He used my passport to make the purchase anyway, then stonewalled me for the entire day. I followed him around like a sad puppy. I clung to his arm, I apologized, over and over, and eventually cried in public when he sat down for dinner alone and asked for a table for one, while I stood behind him, watching the waiter awkwardly look at me. I was humiliated, and hurt, and fed up. So I left. Booked a dingy little hostel with that same $600 we almost used on our flights. It wasn't glamorous, but at least I didn't feel like an emotional punching bag anymore. I was scared to be alone, not even gonna pretend. I didn't want to cry in a foreign country, in a bunk bed, feeling like a total failure. So I started texting my girls. Tina, my ride-or-die who saved our trip by bringing my passport, was the first to answer. She and a few others FaceTimed me that night. And then, bless her soul, Tina booked me a spa day as a surprise, and the rest of the girl gang chipped in to cover it. I cried again, but this time from feeling so loved. Even halfway across the world, they made me feel seen. I was fragile, confused, guilty, and heartbroken, but I wasn't alone. And yes, to those who said I should have walked away earlier, you're right. But also, when you spent almost 2 years sharing your life, body, dreams, and routines with someone, it's not just easy to cut the cord. Love doesn't just shut off like a switch. Even when things are breaking. I knew I couldn't hide in the hostel forever, so I flipped the script. I had a rough idea of our shared itinerary, so I just did the opposite. I booked a last-minute food and walking tour online. It was a small group, maybe 15 of us, and to my surprise, a bunch of the people were also solo travelers. It was easy, open, fun. One of them, a sweet girl I'll call Cindy, was traveling alone from New Zealand. After the tour, we grabbed coffee together at this aesthetic cafe she'd heard about. She asked me why I was traveling solo. And I broke. I cried. Mid-matcha latte. I just spilled everything like a bad rom-com monologue. Cindy didn't flinch. She got up, walked around the table, and hugged me. And I mean, hugged me. A long, warm, grounding hug that I didn't know I needed until I felt it. I was sobbing in her arms, in the middle of a pastel-themed Tokyo cafe. We were definitely those weird girls hugging for 10 minutes while my face melted off. But she didn't let go until I did. And then she said, "It's okay to hurt. But don't let this become a pattern." That stuck with me. Yes, I know some of you are disappointed. I get it. I even sent this entire Reddit thread to Tina and my brother. They both assured me they didn't see signs of abuse, just immaturity, emotional immaturity, and that yes, my boyfriend has always been loving overall. Even when I was texting the group chat, everyone was shocked by his behavior. It was out of character. A one-off, I hoped. So I texted him. Said I missed him. Said we both handled things poorly. Asked, "Can we come back from this?" He called me immediately. And he cried. Not performative, not dramatic, just soft, real sobs. He told me he had planned to propose on this trip. He had a ring hidden in his luggage. And when I forgot my passport, he spiraled. Said it felt like the universe threw his plan in the trash. Said when I mocked him, it broke him. We met up again. And had the conversation. The real one. I laid it all out. How hurt I was, how cruel he'd been, how he made me feel small. How I couldn't walk into marriage without trust that he'd treat me with compassion even in stressful moments. He apologized. Sincerely. He also said something that broke me. I wanted this trip to be our forever story. Instead, it showed me how far we still have to go. I agreed. And that's when we both realized we weren't ready. We didn't yell. We didn't blame. We didn't fall apart in anger. We just accepted it. We spent one last evening walking quietly through a garden near our stay. No drama. Just quiet sadness and unspoken love. The kind you feel when you realize some love stories are lessons, not endings. I flew home 2 days later. Alone. I've been sleeping in my own bed, cooking my own food, journaling. Tina came over the next day with wine and snacks and refused to leave until I laughed. I'm okay. I'm not perfect. I still cry sometimes. Still reread old texts. Still picture the version of the trip that never happened. But I'm healing. This trip was meant to be a celebration. Instead, it became a reckoning and oddly enough, a rebirth. Thank you, Reddit, for giving me a place to sort through my heart when it was too full. For being kind. And real. I think I'll go back to Tokyo someday. Alone. But next time, I won't forget my passport or my worth. Update 3. He proposed. I said yes, but I didn't mean it. And now I'm finally, truly done. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I didn't plan to write another update, but after everything that's happened, I think I need this. just to process and to close the chapter for real. So here it goes. After I stayed in that hostel and had my moment of clarity, thanks again to Cindy and the magical 10-minute hug, I reconnected with my boyfriend. He apologized again. And this time, he was extra. Over the top sweet. He let me choose every meal, every destination, every little decision. It felt a bit much, honestly. Like he was compensating or trying to fix the entire trip by being Mr. Perfect. When he found out I'd gone to a spa that my friends had secretly booked for me, because I was venting about him, he got kind of quiet. He wasn't mad, exactly. More like, disappointed? He said he understood why I needed to talk to them, but it hurt to know I'd shown people his ugly side. I tried to be honest. I said, if I felt safe talking to you in that moment, maybe I wouldn't have needed to talk to them. He nodded, apologized again, shrugged it off. For a while, things were okay. Not perfect, but calm. And then the last 4 days of the trip happened. We had a fancy restaurant reservation on our itinerary. I didn't think much of it until we arrived and the vibes were off. The table was in an awkwardly private spot. The waiter was too nice. We got a special course on the house, even though we hadn't ordered it. The whole staff seemed to be watching us from the corners of their eyes. And I knew. I looked at him and asked, "Are you trying to ask me something tonight?" He just smiled and said, "Let's just enjoy our meal." But of course, it happened. He proposed. In public. With staff smiling and watching. Even the chef came out to say congratulations. I said yes. Because what else was I supposed to say? No, in front of a full restaurant staff that just watched us clink champagne? But inside, my stomach was in knots. I smiled. I thanked the staff. I posed for a picture with the ring. I acted. And then we went back to the hotel. That's when I told him, gently, but firmly, hey, remember our earlier talks? I told you I wanted to wait. I still feel that way. We need more time. Living together. Real life stress. Real life growth. And suddenly, the switch flipped again. He was furious. He said I was wasting his time. That I clearly didn't love him the way he loved me. That I was selfish. That he was the one trying, proposing, being vulnerable, and I was rejecting it. He told me I should have said no if I didn't mean it. Fair, honestly. But I kept trying to explain. That love isn't a performance. That I didn't want to say no in public, but I did want to talk honestly in private. That I do care about him, but I need us to grow, together, before rushing into forever. He wouldn't hear it. And that's when I realized. I have cried more on this trip than I have in the last year. That night, I sat curled up in the corner of a queen-sized hotel bed, crying quietly while he turned his back to me and didn't say a word. He didn't comfort me, didn't ask if I was okay, just stared at the wall and let me break beside him. I barely slept. I waited for him to wake up the next morning so we could talk again, to maybe hit reset, to find some resolution. He got up, didn't even look at me, walked into the bathroom and turned on the shower. Like I wasn't even there. No dramatic ending. No screaming fight. Just a quiet, hollow moment where I realized. This man does not see me. Not fully. Not in my vulnerability. Not in my need for emotional safety. Not in my desire for honesty, even when it's messy. I don't want a love where I have to perform stability in order to be accepted. I don't want a ring to fix a fracture. I want a partner who can sit with me in my tears without punishing me for them. So no, we're not engaged. We're not even together. I flew home a day earlier than planned. He stayed behind. I gave the ring back before I left. Quietly. No big speech. Just a soft, tired, "I'm sorry. I'm not okay. But I'm getting there. I'm journaling. Therapy's on the calendar. Tina's been sleeping over. Cindy and I still text. I'm learning that love isn't just about nice moments. It's about how people treat you when things fall apart. And I'm learning not to apologize for needing more than surface-level sweetness. I'm also learning that my tears aren't weakness, they're signals. And I'm going to start listening to them. Thank you, Reddit, for following this story, for holding space for me. I don't know what comes next, but I know what doesn't. Pretending to be happy for the sake of peace. Because I deserve real peace. Not the kind you fake through gritted teeth. If you've made it this far, thank you. If you're going through something similar, I see you. And if you're crying more than smiling in your relationship, that's not love. That's a lesson. And you're allowed to walk away from it. Update 4. He screamed at me. In a foreign hotel. And I walked away, for good. This is my last update. I promise. I wish I could tell you things ended in a peaceful, mature breakup. That we said goodbye with kindness, understanding, and closure. But the truth? It got ugly. Really, really ugly. The morning after the proposal. I tried. I tried so hard to talk to him. To connect. To salvage something of our relationship. But he just stonewalled. Me. Do you want to talk about last night? Him, no. Me. Are you getting ready? Should we grab something to eat? Him. Don't worry about it. Me. What are you feeling? Him. Nothing. He wasn't yelling. But it felt like I was being erased in real time. I told him finally, okay. Just enjoy the rest of today. And he looked at me, cold as ice, and said, yeah, without you. Then walked out. That was it for me. In that moment, something just clicked. Not out of rage. Not even sadness. Just finality. I picked up my phone and texted him. I'm not tolerating this. We both need to move on. And then I started packing. Maybe 5-10 minutes later, he came back. And he exploded. He was screaming. Not just angry, seething. Full body fury. Slamming the door, yelling over me, pacing like a caged animal. I don't think he would have hit me, but for the first time in our entire relationship, I felt afraid. He started saying things I won't repeat. Things no one should ever be called. Accusations, insults, complete character assassination. I stood there, frozen, hysterical, crying so hard I couldn't speak. The hotel staff heard. They opened the door, assessed the situation quickly, and stepped in. He turned to them and started ranting in English, calling me a whore, saying I ruined his life, just pure venom. And I could barely breathe. Here's the worst part. In that moment, I probably looked like the problem. I was inconsolable, shaking, wordless. And he was loud, sure, but composed in a twisted way. It was surreal. I just asked one of the staff, quietly, "Can you help me get a taxi, please?" And they did. One staff member even stayed with me while I collected my things, making sure I was safe. I will never forget that small act of kindness. I went straight to the airport. I was lucky, got on a flight with less than half a day's wait. While I waited, I made calls. Tina, of course, was the first. My brother, who warned my boyfriend to take things slow, was stunned. He just kept repeating, "What the hell happened?" It was the longest, quietest flight of my life. But weirdly, also the calmest I'd felt in days. When I landed, Tina picked me up with a giant iced latte and an even bigger hug. I told Cindy, yes, Cafe Hug Angel Cindy, that we broke up and she just sent back, "Dub find better." And yeah, I laughed. He hasn't reached out. Not even once. Which, let's be honest, is kind of expected. His friend dropped off my things yesterday. Said, sorry how things ended, and wishing you well. It was civil, polite, detached. No harassment. No gossip. Just silence. Some mutual friends were shocked, of course. We looked like a Pinterest couple. But no one is prying. Everyone's giving me space. Checking in gently. I feel really grateful for that. I cried so much on that trip. More than I had in the past year combined. And that's not what love should feel like. Love isn't humiliation in airports. Love isn't silence after you speak your truth. Love isn't rage when you say, I'm not ready. Love isn't public proposals that ignore private boundaries. Love definitely isn't screaming at someone until strangers intervene. I don't know what the future holds. I don't even know what next week holds. But I know this. I chose myself. I chose peace. I chose better. Even if I'm not fully okay yet, I will be. And if you're reading this, and you're crying more than smiling in your relationship, I see you. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to start over. It's okay to want more. And it's more than okay to never let anyone talk to you like that, ever again. Thank you for holding my hand, Reddit. I'm done now. But I'm not broken. Not anymore.